Hello, everyone. My name is Pablo Langa, and I will be your host today. I'm the managing partner at EDT&Partners. I'm covering today for my colleague Mohit, that should be hosting today's session, but he wasn't feeling well, and it's my pleasure. Actually, I'm super excited about hosting the session today, talking about AI readiness in the context of North America in our specialty of education. For those of you that don't know about us, EDT&Partners is a consulting firm, 100% dedicated to the business of education. We're also strong partners with AWS, and delighted to be contributing a few of the insights around how generative AI, especially, is helping move the needle into the education space in North America. So I will start with some introductions. As I mentioned, this is meant to be like a very insightful conversation. I have with me today Enrico Romani, Industry Solutions Manager at AWS, and a good friend. I'm super happy to have you with us today. When he's not playing with generative AI solutions as an industry manager, he likes to go on sailing with boats. We also have Brad Marshall, the VP of Product and Partnerships at Agilix, one of the organizations that I deeply admire, that's kind of pushing the boundaries in terms of learning systems in K12 and content editorial and partnership. So thanks, Brad, for being with us today. And we also have Todd Rickman, former CTO, Santa Barbara District. So I think we have a beautiful roster of profiles to exchange, hopefully, and disagree. I'm assuming at some point as well with the state of the art of AI in North America, but also for a few of the people that will be listening to this, understanding what are some of the lessons learned and the opportunities as it comes to having AI continue having an impact and moving the needle in the education space. With this, I'm going to try to get quiet and have you do most of the talking today. That will be the goal. But I would like to perhaps, if you agree, start with a little bit of the context setting, right, where we're coming from in the last year or 2 years. I was doing some mental notes, and this will be high-level information, but our friends at Learn Platform, for those of you that don't know, Learn Platform, owned product by Structure, they do this annual report of EdTech. And I think the last number that they were kind of analyzing, it was that the average district in North America has above 200,000 EdTech solutions, right? This is the reality of what a district in the United States is dealing with in terms of education technology. We're also coming from the dry out of the ESSER funds in terms of COVID response support. Probably a plethora of policies and frameworks that in some instances contradict each other in terms of technology usage in the classroom, in terms of governance and how to adopt Gen AI into the classrooms effectively. In my opinion, I think an increasing scrutiny on the impact of education technology in the classrooms as well, both in K-12 and higher education. And did I mention we also have a new president coming up, right? So I think very interesting context, and I would like to open the floor. Any one of the three of you, do you think this is a favorable context or not for the moment of edtech, especially AI in North America? Open to any one of you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Thanks, Pablo, for having us. I find it a very favorable time, actually. So I think what we've discovered over the last couple of years, there's a lot of people that have been trying to solve this problem with AI, trying to integrate AI, trying to find solutions for AI. But I think it goes back to your product goals, right? It goes back to what are the outcomes that you're actually trying to address and solve for schools, for teachers, for students, for their parents. And so what we're finding now, I think, is there's going to be a refinement of what the solutions are that we're providing to these individuals. And so I think it's very favorable. I think that we're sort of past the point of a lot of people just dabbing their toes in it and trying to see what they can do. But we're at a point now where people can really start seeing where it can be valuable, how it can support students and teachers, and applying it, right? And bringing it to the masses, scaling it. We've been doing a lot of exploration up until now. Now it's time for us to start scaling.
Great. So in other words, Brad, you feel there is a maturity moment that we are reaching in terms of how districts and leaders are evaluating solutions and families are evaluating solutions.
Yeah, yeah. And I think while a lot of people are still seeking out solutions and people will still have needs, I think we are definitely seeing a maturity. We're definitely now starting to see where we can invest to actually move the needle effectively for students and teachers.
Brilliant. Todd, Enrico?
Yes, I must say that I fully concur with what Brad is conveying here. I think we've been looking at 2023 as the year of POCs. So many of our customers have been testing and experimenting with generative AI to try and understand the potential of this technology. And in 2024, we are now starting to see really an acceleration into what is the build and the scaling of this solution. It's not that long that the generative AI, let's say, big trend has come to the market. I mean, AWS has been involved with AI for a very long time. I mean, in Amazon, we've been trying to industrialize AI for 25 years almost, right? So we see many customers coming our way to kind of try to understand, okay, how do we bring these things to production now, right? I mean, we've been building use cases, we've been understanding what is it that we can do and how we can derive value. But now the next question is, okay, we are looking at the tip of the iceberg. What is next? And what is under the iceberg? And how can we actually operationalize this? But there is a lot of momentum around generative AI. Yes, I agree.
I was going to add to that this is incredibly exciting times. I've been in education for almost 30 years. Just hard to believe since I'm 27. I've been in education for like 30 years, and you know, we've seen so many people promise here, this is the panacea to fix everything that's wrong with education and help students learn. And I spent 15 years as a classroom teacher, another almost 10 as a CTO. And this is the first time where I mean, I've been excited before, but I really think that what we're seeing in some of the products we're seeing developed are really going to impact teaching and learning in ways that we've obviously never seen before. It's a sea change, I would say.
So, Todd, on that note, I'm curious. You know, there is no denying on the excitement, and you only need to walk the floor of any conference, or even the fact that this webinar conversation is centered around AI, like many others, right? There is excitement. There is, I think, almost a feeling that this is a technology that is transforming in a way and will help transform how we think about education and driven by different things. So I think that's probably an easy thing to agree on. But if we walk to, let's say, January 2023, December 2022, right, when some of the new technologies with OpenAI were coming out, and a lot of the momentum and ideas and expectations that were being generated, you think now, if you look back these last 20 months, you feel that the generative AI opportunity, has fulfilled expectations? And are there any lessons learned? Right. Let's start with some of these. What things we thought that AI will have done or generative AI will have done by now, and whether we feel actually there's been missed expectations and still work to be done, and especially any lessons learned that you feel as you have analyzed plenty of these solutions.
Wow, heavy question. It's interesting to think about where we've come in a really short amount of time. I was at ISTE just recently, and when you walk the floor at ISTE, and I'm just going to be frank, there's a lot of stuff that I would never adopt as a CTO. There's a lot of junk. But when you find those nuggets where companies have gone out of their way to make sure that they're interfacing with teachers as they develop, they're interfacing with the people who are the practitioners. I think that you can find products that are absolutely transformational. But like anything else, there's a lot of stuff you have to kind of wade through in order to get to those things. But in the long run, it's a bit of both, Pablo. I would say that there's some things that I have that are not so good, and some things that are amazing. And I always go back to the platform is only ever as good as the pedagogical practice in the classroom, anyways, right? So it still depends on good teaching and learning practices, or good teaching practices.
Is that how you find the nuggets at top?
Yeah, it is. You have to find platforms. When we first really started to see the rise of EdTech, some people thought that you could replace teaching with it, right? I heard teachers always say, well, they're going to replace us. And the truth is no, that all technology does is it supercharges whatever pedagogy is already going on. So if there's really good teaching going on, that just accelerates it. Technology just accelerates it. And I feel the same thing with AI. If there's bad teaching going on, unfortunately, it accelerates that. So, so to answer your question, yes, I think it's a little bit of both, but it still always comes down to who's doing the teaching in the classroom.
If I could add on to that, Pablo, so we started dabbing into generative AI a few years ago, a couple of years ago. We started experimenting, we started testing, we started trying to push the boundaries, trying to understand what it could do. Over this last 6 months, we started releasing features to the public, for teachers to be able to play with it, use it themselves. But that came after a lot of experimentation. That came after a lot of deliberation, a lot of consulting with teachers, consulting with administrators to try to really understand what they're trying to accomplish. Now, we've been in education for a while now, and so we got the benefit of having long-standing partnerships where we can lean on them for their insights. But something that I want to push a little bit against Todd is it can magnify. It has the potential to magnify bad pedagogy or good pedagogy. But at the same time, like at least an area that we're trying to do is, well, how can we upskill those teachers? How can we provide them with resources, insights, guidance to help them be better? Now, absolutely right. Is it still a teacher moderated tool? Is it still a teacher moderated solution that could be ignored? Absolutely. But we think that this technology actually does provide us some ability to be able to upskill and improve teacher performance. But definitely, I 100% agree with Todd that like it's not looking to replace, it's looking to enhance, it's looking to improve. And what's sort of interesting, you go on those show floors, ISTE, ASU GSB, or the hundreds of others, and AI is the hot topic, right? It is the thing that's being discussed. It's the thing that people are looking to fund. It's the thing that people are really excited about. But it really comes back to what is happening in the classroom, what's happening between that teacher and that student that we can effectively support and help to make sure that the students are achieving their learning outcomes.
And Brad, this Enrico might be able to help with this one as well. You mentioned, I think in this you concur with Todd, the importance of being close to the practitioners, close to the educators. One of the things that we say is like with education and non-deterministic scenarios like AI, you can just not. We don't have the luxury of getting it right just 80% of the time, right?
Yeah.
So whatever gets created needs to be fit for kind of the education purpose. It has to, right? If you were, and you mentioned you have the luxury of having been in business for so long, being one of the learning platforms out there that creates and prices to be closer to the learners and the teachers, and to be agile and flexible to provide those services. If you were starting yesterday and you didn't have that legacy, I think this might be interesting for some edtechs that are earlier in the journey.
Yeah.
What would you try to do to get that degree of certainty or alignment? And again, any of the three of you, but I thought that that's probably relevant.
Yeah, I'll give my quick opinion about this. So we have seen that partnerships is critical to success, especially in K-12 education. This applies, I think, to other industries as well. But if you look at K-12 education, there's established partnerships either with the schools, with the districts, with publishers, with school networks, whomever it may be, that is sort of critical for you to be able to get the necessary feedback to iterate and develop the right solutions. We firmly believe that, like, we got a million different schools, you got a million different pedagogies, or you got a million different approaches to teach those teachers. Similarly, at the individual learner level, that each one of them learns and adapts and grows differently than everyone else. But the only way that you can actually experiment, test, and try to deliver those custom and personalized learning experiences is finding people that believe in your vision, finding someone that agrees with you, that promise of what you want to deliver, and go to bat with them, join with them, have boots on the ground with them, to make sure that you're actually really partnering and delivering solutions that meet their needs.
Yes, if I may add, I also believe that to bring perhaps and I agree with Brad. I mean, partnership is really one of the key elements here, and choosing the right partner to go to battle with is definitely one of the enablers that is going to perhaps define the success of your endeavor. When we look at the let's say generative AI journey, we also realize that every journey can be kind of different. But there are some common elements that we've been seeing across our customer ecosystems. And when leveraging generative AI to create, let's say, a real value, because I kind of gathered that was on the back of your question, Pablo, I think we identify pretty much 3 stages when it comes to the bringing AI to production. That is really the move stage, then the building stage, and then the scaling stage. In the move phase, we kind of see that, let's say, people are starting to learn, exploring and testing, and really identifying what the technology can do for them. And these are really the first steps where companies are at this level need to embrace a continuous innovation and experimentation kind of approach inside the organization, because this experimentation kind of is what drives momentum and what drives, let's say, adoption also inside the organization. Because let's not forget, AI has many different applications also inside the edtech, right? So it can be used not just to produce value or, let's say, the bottom line or top line towards their customers, but also inside the organization. So choosing a pilot that, let's say, let's generate return on investment and momentum, I think it's key. And also choosing the right pilot that kind of is low risk, can be relatively easily implemented at the right cost. I think that's also another good element to keep into account. But also kind of creating this balance between risk and reward. I think this is kind of the key there to kind of go into this build phase where then a company can start customizing, integrating, and evaluating. But all of this, I think, has to be done in collaboration with customers, whatever internal or external customers. I mean, we have this methodology in Amazon that's called working backwards, and I've been personally involved with higher education university to define higher education, in particular universities here across EMEA, where we are defining use cases and try to really help them in the journey of, okay, how can you really leverage this technology inside your organization? And I'm speaking with universities that perhaps are more builders rather than buyers, right? This is kind of the differentiator there. But yeah, I fully.
Fantastic. No, thanks, Enrico. I think we the first few takeaways, and I'm not going to use the word nugget because that I think it's going to be for thought for the rest of the session. But the first few findings is, regardless of the noise in the edtech space, there's a sentiment that there is good momentum and a great opportunity, great appetite for adopting change, whatever that means. A few of the lessons learned in the last 18 months probably are connected to focusing on the fit for the actual education purpose and being close to the practitioners, to the needs is crucial. The partnerships, and Enrico, kind of reusing your words, making sure that you are carefully choosing your partners, the kind of pilots, the kind of elements that you are trying to work backwards from, so that you can quickly iterate from. So I think that's great. And I need to personally thank AWS because I think you're doing a phenomenal work in the industry, helping the different ecosystem, especially from your team. So thanks for that, Enrico.
Yeah, I second that. AWS has been critical for our own development. We've tried some other providers, and AWS was the individuals at AWS, not just the technology, were very critical in our success.
If this was a dinner, Enrico, you will be paying for food later on. I think we've mapped on in terms of lessons learned. What are the things that, looking at today, right? And it is true that the speed of Gen AI changes. Like, it looks like last year we were learning the basics of prompt engineering, and now everyone knows about RAG, fine tuning, agents, workflows, and so many other advanced things. And literally, it was only 18 months ago, right? But if you look at today, what are some of the things that you are kind of blown away, that you are extremely proud, whether it's on your own products, things that you have observed, things that you feel are already making a big impact? Anyone?
So technologically wise, I think for us, some of the things that have really impressed me is the excitement of teachers wanting to try something. So I just saw a report recently. I think they said that 51% of teachers use Gen AI regularly. I don't know what regularly means, but regularly, with another like 38% that's planning on using it. So there, if you do the math, there's only 11% of people that's not using it or not planning on using it. So I think it's really exciting. I don't think we've seen this in this industry before, where people are open to trying new things. For us, some of the things that's been most exciting is being able to learn from these teachers and learn from these administrators of ways that they're using our technology that we didn't necessarily anticipate. So I'll just give you a quick example. So we have BusyBee, which is our intelligent learning and teaching companion for our Buzz learning management system. And we provide a way for students, similar to what you're talking about, RAG models and prompt engineering, to have a conversation with that assignment, to get feedback, to dive a little bit deeper, to try to understand a little bit better. And similarly, the agent, BusyBee, is trying to coach that student to understand the aligned learning standards to a mastery level. And so we built that solution for students. Students are using it. We're getting lots of good information about the students' use of it. But some of the things that was really impressive to me was the teachers reviewing these conversations that the students are having and being able to discover areas of gaps in their teaching, in their instruction, in their curriculum, and being able to say, oh, a lot of people are having a conversation about this particular topic with the AI, and how does that influence how I'm going to teach tomorrow? How does that influence how I'm going to adjust my curriculum for the next week? And so it's been really fun to be able to see teachers adopting this technology that students are using and leveraging it themselves in those transcripts, that information, to be able to custom their teaching for those students.
Do you see, Brad? Oh, sorry, Todd.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna do like a quick kind of deep dive do you see in your patterns of usage, and this might be relevant for the people listening, is there like the typical hype of new product usage and then a fade down to get then normalize, or you're using like other sort of signals of how kind of some of these AI products
Yeah,
are
that's a
being
good
used?
question. So yeah, so we have metrics tracking the usage of each one of our AI solutions. And it has been steadily increasing the usage. There was definitely, I think the first week, lots of clicks. So I'll give you one example. We have a check my understanding feature that allows students to self-assess real quickly, like AI generated quiz, to see if they're understanding the curriculum that's being given to them. We definitely saw a lot of people clicking on it at the very first week, not really answering the questions, but just clicking on it, seeing what it does. But we're seeing week over week that more and more people are actually engaging with trying the questions, like getting that immediate feedback of whether or not they're being successful or not in comprehending that content. So it's been interesting. So everyone that's using our solution, and we're in a pilot phase right now, but everyone that's using the solution, there's actually been increase in usage week by week.
I was going to say that, and you might have to, I could talk about this for a long time. So Pablo, please cut me off if I talk too much. This is where I am really excited about things. One of the things that I think platforms have the power to do, edtech platforms have the power to do, is change the way teachers look at instruction. I'm going to give you a really quick example of that. I remember when we started using Google Suite or Google, right, back in the day when it still said beta on it, right? And I pushed it out to teachers, and we slowly started to take away Office products, and I was the most hated person in the district. Like, how could you do this? Why would you do this to us? All the colleges and universities use Office, on and on and on. But what now you see now, if you visit classrooms at my old district, is that using the Google Suite is just part of the culture of the district. It's just the way they do business. Same thing happened with rolling out of an LMS, right? People are like, why are you doing this? This is the most awful thing in the whole world. But then it just becomes the culture of doing business. And what teachers do is they take the best of those products and they infuse it with their own creativity to do incredible things in the classroom. So speaking about Agilix Lab and what the work that Brad's doing, this is what I think is kind of the holy grail. Teachers have been looking for a way to quickly differentiate for all those. When I taught, I had 35 different kids in my classroom, 5 periods a day, right? They all were in different places. They all were inspired by different things. And so how do you, as a single person, meet everybody's needs? It's virtually impossible, right? So that's even the most gifted of teachers. I remember saying, if I have a good day every couple of months, then I'm doing my job, where I walk away and I'm like, I killed it today, right? But I think what AI allows you to do is meet the kids really quickly where they're at, right? And going to kind of the competency-based education work, which I believe is the way schools have to go, and it's a whole nother topic. But that would be really hard to do at a scalable level without something like AI. And so that's the most exciting thing, really, an individual education plan for every kid that can change from week to week based on what they're doing. That's really exciting to me.
Brilliant. Enrico, from your side, something you've seen?
I totally agree with Todd. I mean, what I call hyper-personalization of the study plan, I think it's really something that, let's say, everybody has wanting to do for years, right? And was just not possible because it requires a huge amount of resources. But now with this AI technology, we are really, it seems like that personalized learning is really becoming a reality. But beyond that, I think what's really exciting for me is the multitude of use cases that we are seeing there, right? So I've been, as I was mentioning before, in the capacity of industry solution manager, I'm really kind of talking to line of business leaders or teachers or executives in the different level of educational institution, and try to understand what their problems are and where the opportunity could be for them to actually use this technology. And we see use cases going from content creation, curation, to automatic grading, question generation, feedback generation, intelligent tutoring. Really, it's going all over the place, and it's really kind of transforming really the educational patterns. I also happen to be a teaching assistant for a course of entrepreneurship and human factor of innovation. And one of the questions we had a few days ago while reviewing one of the courses was about a student using AI for grammar and for and being open about it, right? Because that's also kind of the next thing that is coming to this environment is the impact of AI. But this is, I mean, witnessing all of this, I think at times is just breathtaking, right? Because it's really a transformation, and we are living it, and we're here, right?
Exciting times. Let me perhaps try to create a little bit of controversy, and perhaps through the lens of North America. The three of you have talked about use cases that you see that are exciting, and it is true that a lot of different segments of the kind of education technology service provider taxonomy, right? Like whether it's content providers, LMSs, specialized service solutions, assessment specialized solutions, content generators. We perceive, and I don't know if you will agree, something that we call kind of there is a collision of AI use cases, right? There's certain situations where it is not clear whether that use case is best owned by the district themselves with their own technology, by the centralized LMS, by a specialized technology provider, by the content provider. So, through the lens of North America, do you think that this is the case, that there is at the moment a little bit of a collision of AI use cases? And if you were, some of you, in your case, Brad, you are competing in the market, how do you see that being addressed or evolving, if you wish? I'm curious about your opinions.
Yeah, so actually, I really like this question. So I have a strong position. I think software,
It means the other questions you didn't like.
What's that?
It means that you didn't like the other questions.
No.
You like this one.
So I think it's really exciting because I believe solutions should be purpose-built. But as we talked about previously, we talked about the average school district has X amount of thousands of applications, tools that's being used. That my personal opinion is the learning management system needs to be your pulse on the entire student's journey, their growth, their progress, and everything like that. And so the way that I approach it, and we approach it with developing our solutions, is saying, what are the solutions that we need to build into the solution so that they don't need to go and acquire one little vendor product that's only used for this one purpose? How do we use that natively in our platform? Doesn't mean we do everything, just probably due to more resources than anything else, but that we do the things that are most meaningful to students' growth. So I am a firm believer that it needs to be as easy as possible on teachers, as transparent as possible to administration, and as accessible as possible to students. And the only way you do that is by making it core to the student's journey. And in my opinion, the core to the student's journey should be what we traditionally call the learning management system or the learning platform. Anyway, so I think that's really important. But I also think, which is a trend that we're seeing here, is a lot more of outcome-based contracts. And so districts, institutions saying, vendor, you're promising us this, then we won't pay you if it doesn't do that. And I think that's really important. And the reason why, unfortunately, is because over the last 15 years, there's been a lot of edtech providers coming in, and there's been a lot of them promising that they can do certain things, but at the end of the grading term, those results aren't met. They don't come to fruition. So I think it's important that, one, we make it as simple as possible for teachers and students to be able to adopt new technologies, but you need to be able to measure it as well. And the only way I think you can truly measure is you need to be able to have the data. For you to be able to have the data, you need to know the performance, you need to know the time spent, you need to know the engagement, and there's a whole bunch of information that feeds into that to truly be able to produce good outcomes.
Brilliant. And I think for those of people that might be watching these either now or through the recording, I want to echo something that you highlighted around outcomes-based procurement or contracting. And I think a very interesting point, I think since COVID, a growing trend in North America, and I think a phenomenal way to keep accountability both in the provider as well as in the district adopting the technology, right? Because you can only commit to a specific kind of learning outcomes is actually the tool is properly deployed and trained into. So I think effective use of AI or education technology in general, that's a great starting point. And one of the things that we're looking into, mirroring kind of the North American successes using this type of contracting into other markets. I need to say, Brad, it doesn't surprise me that you believe that the LMS should be at the center of the. I don't know if Todd and Enrico will think the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, in the conversation I had with teachers in the context of a project that I'm working on that revolves around bringing capability around the lecture, and this is really to tackle that what we call undifferentiated heavy lifting. So those activities that really are not adding a ton of value to a teacher work, but then it take a lot of time and so on. So we are really kind of exploring options to build some primitives that can perhaps help edtechs in accelerating and build, workflows around those primitives and so on. I think one of the topic that came through in the conversation was that teachers basically have 3 tools now in their hands to deliver a lecture or deliver a class, so to speak. And these 3 tools are indeed the learning management system, an office suite of some form, and a streaming platform, right? So any solution that you are developing today needs to align somewhat, somehow to these 3, to one of these 3 platforms, because it makes adoption much more easier. Building snowflakes and building, let's say, activities that, is that platform again, where I have to go there and I don't remember, because it's not going to be the primary focus of a teacher to remember all the platforms that are there available, right? Unless, of course, it's really that one true differentiator that really strikes and so on. Ready to see that happening. But for now, I think a best bet, and what I hear from higher education teaching bodies really around that. So the integration is key. And with the analytics that Brad was mentioning, I think it doesn't stop with learning management system, but then it goes beyond that, student information system and so on. And so if we are looking at an AI solution and we are looking at hyper-personalization, of course, hyper-personalization requires the data related to the student, right? And as one of the things that perhaps has come before into the conversation is really data is the differentiator here. Large language models or generative AI or let's say the different flavors of foundational models are there, but they are kind of common ground. They will at certain point become kind of a commodity. Not sure how long it's going to take, but the differentiator for anybody building there, or being an edtech building on their own data that they own, or a school or a university that is going to use those edtechs products to differentiate themselves in the market, data is going to be the differentiator.
I have to completely agree with Enrico. One of the first questions I asked as a CTO always when I was looking at a platform is, tell me about your API and your integrations, because I need to get that data into my data warehouse, whether that's my SIS or I have a data warehouse that I maintain myself. But I have a lot of data. A lot of districts want to make data driven decisions about a lot of things, right? And having easy access to the data, which would be great if it was easily digestible coming right out of the platform. But if it's not, give me access to it so I can make it easily digestible for my school board, for my teachers, my administrators, my parents, and my students. That's absolutely key.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that that concept of data ownership that until very recently was not necessarily like a lot of districts and higher education institutions had their data sets distributed across like 10, 15, 20 major service providers and often enough limited access. So I think that's a great hint both as a as a responsible technology individual or, technology provider to keep into consideration data continues to be king in this conversation. So I think very interesting kind of answers around kind of this collision of AI use cases. So I would summarize basically there's a common agreement that there has to be a set of hubs that concentrate a few of the main kind of use cases, especially the ones that we're seeing right now around efficacy or providing saving time, giving those superpowers to the teachers and sometimes to students. I personally am of the view that there are spaces for other adjacent frameworks or solutions that will continue to have space as kind of AI and other trends redefine some of the, even how we think about assessment, how we think about certain things that might not be in the traditional workflow that we were familiar with. That might generate opportunities for a few of the players. Also, the multimodality, having more video embedded, etc., probably will create other spaces and use cases.
Yeah.
But connected with this, we've seen a little bit kind of the um, potential entry points. Now, if you were to be in the boots of an established player operating in North America, um, and you realize you have a decent market share, and now looking uh, into the current reality, we could say that the cost of entry for like a startup, that's was operating in a segment or decides to enter the education technology space, probably it's continues to be dramatically reduced, both in terms of investment, in terms of time to market. Um, do you see this as a concern for some of the established players? And do you think at the same time it's an opportunity for some of them to, consolidate their position if they, make the right investments? So I think kind of a double sword type of question. Are some of the established edtech players at risk from some of the new up and coming solutions that might come with more agility and a fresher perspective? And at the same time, what opportunities do they have to really secure and grow their current position?
The simplest answer is absolutely they're at risk. Everyone's at risk. I mean, if you ever are entering a new category, you're ever entering a new time period, like you have to be playing as if you're at risk. Now, they definitely have some benefits. They got some leg ups of being able to have an audience that they can experiment with and try new things with to see if they can get some market validation before they go in scale. But everyone is at risk. We're all trying to improve student outcomes. We're all trying to, well, we all say we're trying to improve student outcomes. What's going to be really important, though, is how do we address those fears that teachers have, right? They're concerned about academic integrity. They're concerned about accuracy of outcomes. They're concerned about receiving training and support about solutions. They're also concerned about bias. And so I think there's a lot of issues that people need to address that the big players, the ones that have the largest market share, that they stand at risk of if they don't deliver a solution. But if they deliver the bad solution, then all of a sudden they have significant costs as well as disappointed users.
I think it depends on whether edtech vendors change their sales strategy. And what I mean by that is that take an LMS, for example. For me to change LMSs in a large school district is a huge risk, huge risk. And if you're not giving me something significantly better, then I'm going to get just pummeled by my teachers who are going to say, why did we do this? I was so comfortable with that. Now Because anytime you make somebody change, they all of a sudden feel like I'm not as good as my job because they're not familiar with the tool that they're using, right? So it's a huge risk. Why would I ever do that? And so I think that it's important for ed tech companies not to sell a product necessarily, but a theory of practice, right? So I'm going to take Agilix, for example, because I know a little bit about them. If you came to me, if Brad came to me and said, I have a really great LMS, I would be like, nope, I absolutely not. I love my job too much, right? I will get killed by my teachers. But if you come to me with, hey, we have this idea around what education should look like, and it's about competency-based education. Here's what it could look like. And here's how you can get your teachers who really kind of aren't on the competency-based education wagon yet. Here's how you can bring them along, but at the same time, let them feel comfortable and push towards this. Now I'm much more interested because you're selling me a vision of what things could be rather than just selling me an LMS. If you're just selling me an LMS, I'm not interested because it's not significantly better. But if you're going to get me to some place that I couldn't ever imagine, you're going to inspire teachers along the way because they know what's best for their kids and they know that vision will work, then I think you have a much better chance of selling your product, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, and just tagging onto that, I agree with that. And I was just looking at a report this morning. It's a different industry, but they were adopting some AI solutions, and they saw a 17 percentage points increase in satisfaction of using it if they received proper training. And so I think that's going to be critical during this phase. Is we're going to be introducing new tools, we're going to be introducing new solutions, trying to help teachers improve student learning. And you can have the best solution in the world, but you're at a 17 point disadvantage if you do not have the policies or practices in place to train them, to onboard them, to support them through that journey.
Yeah, I'd like perhaps add maybe a nuanced perspective here. That is, the opportunity is really big, and potentially AI is going to grow that opportunity in the market. So as AWS, we've commissioned this report that perhaps is very generic in this context of the conversation, but just to give an impression, we commissioned a report to Strand Partners, and a third of European businesses have adopted AI at a 32% growth rate since last year. And it could contribute to an additional 600 billion euro in gross value add. That basically means the opportunity is really, really big. And so perhaps while big players are not at risk, maybe there is room for creating new oceans or blue oceans rather than red oceans, if you like the analogy, right?
Super interesting, this point. You think now connecting this a little bit with the business opportunity, and as I like to put kind of the scalability at the end of the day, right? Like these continue to be investments by the providers, by the technology players, and also the districts. Do you see a lot of the use cases? I'll rephrase it differently. My personal perspective, I think a lot of what we're seeing is really based on, incremental optimization of existing workflows and products and things that we have been doing a certain way. Now we can do them faster, better, more efficiently with more data, more accuracy, whatever that may be. And that's probably the reality of the curve of the evolution or the advancement that we have in the current state of Gen AI. Would you advocate for, either now or moving forward, new solutions? In other words, charging additionally for a brand new solution that needs to cover a different space? Or this is education technology providers need to swallow these additional costs to the best of their capability within their cost structures and offer it as now I have an enhanced LMS with AI versus, hey, here is an advanced assessment solution or a Copilot for your faculty or your teacher that's X extra dollars on top of your regular license. what, this connects a little bit with scalability, which is a big topic, right? When it comes to deploying some of these solutions at scale. But what are your thoughts? Like new solutions, new fees to be charged, or incremental, updates and swallowing the cost within existing products?
I think you need to evaluate what is the role of that product from A to B, right? Like that transition, that transformation of what you want that future version of that product to be. If you're looking at version A and you're looking at version A and all you are is a Dropbox, right? Your solution to store resources, your solution to dump files into it. And you say, oh, well, now we provide summaries based upon those resources that you're dumping in. That feels like, well, you're just enhancing an existing thing, an existing function or role that you're fulfilling. But I think what we're going to see in education, at least, and what you're going to see with us, definitely, is the role changing, where you're not just a Dropbox, but you are you are an assessment, you are a creation, you are evaluation, where you're actually fulfilling new functions and new roles that the institution did not expect of you when they originally engaged with you, honestly. And so, but to be completely fair, when you evaluate these new functionalities, these new experiences, these new groundbreaking technologies that you want to introduce to your users, there's costs associated with it. There's significant investment put into trying to solve those problems or provide those new functions, and those will be associated with additional costs as well, for the most part.
I'm very sensitive to this question because I used to have to buy products, right? And then I worked for an LMS company for a little while where I saw the other side of having to make money, right? From a CTO perspective of the school district, money is always incredibly tight, right? Incredibly tight. And everybody wants a piece of the pie. So if you can, and I have to rationalize everything to my superintendent and to my school board, right? In public schools. So if I'm going to pay more for your product, you need to give me an argument that I can take to my superintendent and my school board about where we're going to save money on the back end, right? So to Brad's, I'll give you an example. We used to hire readers to help English teachers just get through the load of reading papers and grading papers. If you could provide me a platform where I paid a little bit more money for it, but I don't have to pay for the readers anymore, then I'm all ears. But if you're not really giving me an argument that I can take to my school board and to my superintendent, then I'm going to have a really hard time coming up with the money, most likely.
Yeah, and if I could add on to that as well. So something that we're doing that's really interesting is as we're partnering with new schools and new publishing partners to adopt our technology, to adopt our tools, we're evaluating what their main objectives are, right? And not every single school district's the same. Like there's nuances to what is performance, what is outcomes, what is completion. And what's been interesting is as we've been exploring this and we've been trying to build solutions to actually address the objectives that they have, we're actually seeing great potential to either increase the allotment, the budget allotment that those schools in those districts receive, or decreasing costs because they're not having to bring that student back for a second year. They completed that class in 1 year. And so absolutely right. What's important is that we're evaluating what are those KPIs or what are those desired outcomes, and we're actually moving those needles. And not every school is the same.
And I think that it's important for vendors, just really quickly, to know where the money is in public schools, especially to go in and say, hey, well, we built this product and we know that you can use this title to pay for it. And I might not even realize, oh, really? I can use that because I have a bucket of money. I've been trying to figure out what to do with that. So I think it's important to Brad's point, when you're developing things, also think about, as I develop this, what bucket of money might that gain access to based on the features I put into it, right?
Yep.
100%. And that's to the point that we were discussing before as well, the opportunity that some of the more established players have by having a better understanding of those, how they fit, and even their ability to tap into some of those Title I or whatever other funds that might be available. We have a few. I mean, we are, as we were preparing for this, we knew that we could use a couple of hours. We have 5 more minutes, and there have been a couple of questions from the audience. I don't think we'll be able to do them all, but at least I think one of them, I was reading through. I think it's very interesting, and it talks about the potential emerging gap, right, and the digital divide, and whether kind of AI, and so especially the question is around schools that actually implement AI and have the, let's say, the luxury or the ability to be able to deploy these type of solutions early on versus some that not. You feel, or even that are hesitant, right? Like families that choose a school that happens to be a little bit more, slower in terms of adoption or more cautious. Do you think that there's going to be a growing digital divide, something that we need to be aware of?
I'll start. Yes. I mean, it's still a problem today, right? Just connectivity in rural areas of our country versus urban area of our countries. Before I left Santa Barbara, one of the big things we did is we rolled out a 1-to-1 where kids took devices home, because I thought about how unfair is it that my kids have 6 devices at home, are teaching themselves how to play guitar, watching YouTube videos, and there are other kids that don't have access to any of that. And now how learning can now happen anywhere. So how do we empower kids? I think that, like any technology invention, you run the risk of enabling others and disenfranchising some. And that's for leaders of school districts to really, really pay attention to, because I think it's an absolute concern.
Yeah, I think so. One of our core things that we try to address is accessibility to education, good quality education. And I think that there absolutely is. I mean, I know in my state that I wouldn't have expected it, but just 30 miles, how many people don't even have internet at home, right? Like they don't even have access to that. So having that device, they may have a 1-to-1 device program, but if they go home, that doesn't do them much good because everything's connected to the internet. And so I think that there is risk and concern about that. And I think it's really important that as we're developing these solutions that we're really evaluating, like, well, how do we upskill everyone? How do we improve everyone? At least at minimum for that 8-hour, 7-hour window that they're in the classroom, at minimum there. And so I think that's really important. But yes, the digital divide will continue to occur.
Yes, and there are skills gap also in the let's say in the business, right? So there are different realities across the globe where perhaps there are companies that are less able to deliver even on such. So with AWS, we are kind of in that front. We are trying to let's say train as many people as possible. We are also having a training organization. We have free training to actually upskill professionals even on and business people on AI and understanding, getting a better understanding of AI. But I concur with what you guys are saying, and this is my personal opinion. I mean, it's a general purpose technology, and I think it's up to us all and our societies to really be able to kind of understand how to most benefit of this general purpose technology. Of course, we are looking at the digital divide for perhaps schools that are using more advanced AI solutions, but perhaps the flip side of that is also perhaps students that didn't have access to education before, and now perhaps with more advanced AI solution will be able to, thanks perhaps to one of the edtechs that is listening to us.
Yeah, and I agree. I wanted to say, and this may be Pollyanna-ish, but I think it's everybody's responsibility to mind that gap. Not just school districts, but companies have a responsibility. I love the term "you can do well by doing right," and those are the type of companies as a CTO that I always look to work with. And there's plenty of them in the edtech world, and so I think it's all of our responsibilities.
Thanks for those responses, and I will personally need to agree with your comments on that digital divide regard. And even so, when you look globally in global South and other markets, this is a growing concern, right? So I think it is everyone's responsibility. And going back to that element of partnership, that we all must need to think about. This is a layer one problem that needs to be solved. Right? We cannot only develop for the 20% that kind of have access to the latest technology early on. We're to the top of the hour, and we're going to squeeze the 5 bonus minutes, so at least we can give closing remarks. I think we're living a fascinating time. One of the reflections I was doing in another conference this past week is, for the first time ever, when you look at the evolution of technology, we have seen a lot of the technology advancements come first to the kind of big corporations and governments, etc., and later on distill into consumers at the later stage. Right, it has been the case with the personal computer and the mainstream computers, with the internet and how it deployed. Fascinating part that we're living today is that these advancements, fast advancements, very much every 3-4 months on generative AI, are coming to all of us at the same time, right? Like whether you're a large technology or a district, or you're an individual teacher or family or student. And that, I think, generates tremendous opportunity, but also uncertainty and a brand new way of consuming the technology. So a brief statement, and I think since we're getting into the holiday season with Thanksgiving coming up and Christmas as well, I'll ask each of you in 30-40 seconds, and I'll start myself. If you could give the industry or anyone that's listening with a recommendation or a wish or something that you feel it's going to be extremely relevant in terms of how technology, and specifically Gen AI, will continue to help move the needle in education, what would that be? And I'll be the first one. From EDT&Partners side, trying to provide a contribution as a services organization, we've actually been working on a basically framework of adoption to facilitate specifically that umbrella of use cases for education, to basically house new advancements of Gen AI use cases as they continue to come up, and actually help connect not only students and teachers and faculty, but also kind of historical data, and provide kind of the governance, security, kind of scalability, and a number of other things that will be looked into an enterprise solution, right? And we are very proud of developing this as an open source solution for anyone that's using AWS technology to be able to consume. So if you want to learn a little bit more, as we share this video, we'll make sure that that's available. And I highlight that this is an open source that everyone will continue to be able to use. We're piloting at the moment with a few universities around the world, and we'll be delighted to get feedback from anyone else so that we can continue contributing. So with that, over to you, and hopefully we can close in the next 2 minutes. Enrico, if you want to start.
Yeah, well, I'm also I concur with the initiative that you were describing, Pablo. I would be happy to also kind of collaborate to that, and as we further our collaboration. I think if in few words, I think what I wish for the future is really democratizing technology for positive change, and I think this is really one of the most ambitious goals that are possibly out there. And when it comes to AI, building AI with responsibility in mind, I think that's also one of the commitments that Amazon has. There was this, and I think this is like in few sentences, I think this is what really, what I think should happen and will happen.
Thank you, Enrico.
Well, yeah.
Brad?
Yeah, I think my gift to everyone is choose your partners wisely. There's going to be a lot of people that's pitching you, a lot of people that are trying to get your attention. And I think the most important thing you do is evaluate them, but evaluate them for your aligned objectives. Like, are they trying to accomplish the same things that you are doing? And when you find those people, hold on to them, because in an industry that wants to change fast, you want some stability with people that you think will take you to the promised land, take you to where you want to arrive at. And so I open myself up as well. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or at agilix.com, and I'd be happy to engage in any future conversations with anyone about AI and how we can help you achieve your goals.
Fantastic, Rob.
And for me, as you look to build your AI solutions, I would just recommend not doing it in a silo. Go and sit in classrooms, sit down with teachers. It'll inspire you, and it'll help you develop products that are truly needed and valued.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We're only 6 minutes over the time. Those who know me, I tend to overrun some of the meetings by like 15, 20 minutes. So we've behaved. Thank you once again for your contributions. Anyone that will listen to this, we hope that this is helpful, and we'll continue to try to make some of these efforts at collaborating, finding the right partners, the contributions. I think will only make the industry stronger if we can share some of these ideas. So happy festivities and holidays for those of you that are coming up. And thanks again. See you very soon.
Thank you.
Yo, bye-bye.